Hey boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed our last video of just some information about Mexico and some fun facts about Mexico. We're learning about the EC Church of Latin America. I realize it's not the EC Church of Mexico, even though most of our churches are in Mexico. The vision of the denomination of the EC Church in Mexico is for all of Latin America, which even goes further south than Mexico, and that's a great vision to have. But we are learning primarily about Mexico for these mission moments. And I told you last video that we're going to learn a little bit of Spanish today. Now, we need to know these Spanish words because if you went to Mexico, you could find some churches with these Spanish words on them. So our first Spanish word is iglesia. That's an important one. That means church. That's the English word is church. The Spanish word is iglesia. Jesus Cristo. That's kind of easy. We can probably hear that. Jesus Christ. This is probably unfamiliar to a lot of people, is Redentor. Now, in Spanish, you usually have to roll your R's. I don't do that great, so that's how I say it. But that means, in English, Redeemer. Nazareno. Oh, I did it there. How about that? Try that. Roll your R's at home. Try rolling your R's. Nazareno. That means Nazarene. We know Jesus was from Nazareth. We have a denomination here in the United States called the Nazarene Church. Casa de Dios means house of God. And Todopoderoso means almighty. Those are a couple of words that I didn't even know in Spanish, but those words will appear on some of our churches. Now here's a picture of the pastor who leads the EC Church of Latin America and pastors in Mexico. Juan Zuniga and his wife Rosa are the leaders of the EC Church of Latin America. And they are leading the church in Mexico with a great big vision of trying to do some mission work in all of Latin America, and that's great. Now we're going to get to know of some of the folks in Mexico in some of our churches. Now you're going to have to remember the Spanish words. See if you can remember the Spanish words that we learned, because this is the name of the church of Pastor Rodolfo. And there's some friends at their church, maybe doing a VBS and having some kids' ministries, and he pastors at the church of Iglesia Cristo el Redentor. Now, if you can remember, that's the Church of Christ the Redeemer. So that's Pastor Rodolfo's church, Pastor Juan's church, Iglesia Jesus Nazareno, Jesus of Nazareth, Church of Jesus of Nazareth. And there's some friends at that church. If you got to know them, you'd have to speak Spanish, or they'd need to speak English. Usually when we go to Mexico to visit our pastors and our churches and our brothers and sisters there, we have to take a translator. Because I don't know Spanish, I need someone to go with me that knows Spanish and English, so I would say it in English, and my translator would repeat it in Spanish, and then whoever I'm talking to would say it in Spanish, and my translator would tell me in English. So it takes a long time to communicate when you go to some different countries if you don't know the language. But this is Pastor Juan's church. Here's Pastor Fidel's church, Iglesia Casa de Dios. Do you remember what that means? Casa de Dios, house of God. And it looks like they're singing some songs here, having a lot of fun. Even though we can't be together at VBS, that's what we would be doing. We'd all meet in the fellowship hall where I am right now, and we'd sing songs together. You're going to have to sing those songs at home, but there's a lot of kids in Mexico singing some of the same songs that you probably sing. And here's Pastor Juan's church, Iglesia el Todopoderoso, Church of the Almighty. And that's talking about God and God being all-powerful and God being almighty. And so those are some of the folks in Mexico that if we went there, we could go to an EC church and we'd be able to hear the message preached in Spanish. We'd be able to hear some songs in Spanish. And if we went to a VBS, we'd be listening to that in Spanish. And now we know a few Spanish words when we go there, which would be great. So you can practice those Spanish words at home And if you didn't already, go eat some chocolate, since that's where chocolate was introduced to the world. So stay tuned for video number 3. It's going to be our last video for this short series of mission moments on the EC Church of Latin America.